what's different about doing a commercial job with spray foam?
Well, typically on commercial work, it's a lot more industrial, meaning the specs are usually a lot more robust than residential.
When you say robust, what do you mean? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, the job in Culver City that we did.
So this is the one that's the video.
The tip, like this one right here.
That looks like our work.
Yep, it's 4 inches on the walls, where typically residential has 2, at the most 3.
So why more? Why 4 inches?
Because commercial buildings typically build them in a way that it could handle a lot of people. They're just built a lot more sound. Typically the specs on commercial work are a lot more intense. It's just the nature of the business on commercial work. More money spent.
I imagine there's a lot more surface area on a commercial building too.
Typically, yeah. I mean, I've done some small commercial jobs as well. A lot of commercial jobs we insulate on top. Well, they'll need a roof system, and foam roofs are very typical on commercial.
So when you say insulate on top, you're talking about the top layer on the roof would be insulated?
On top of the roof, yes.
So what does that do to people being able to walk on it?
They can walk on it. There's no problem with that. It's very durable.
Is the spray foam left just as the top surface area, or is something put over the top of the spray foam?
No, there's an elastomeric roof coating that's sprayed on top of the foam.
Is that part of what you do?
Yes.
What's it called? Elasta something?
Elastomeric roof coating.
What is that? What does it do?
It's an acrylic coating that has a reflective value, preserves the foam. The foam can't tolerate direct sunlight, or it just fails and burns up. You have a protective coating on top of that, which is a watertight seal. A lot of times, depending on the building, that let's say like if it's a restaurant or something and they want to do a lot of woodwork on the ceiling, we'll insulate the roof. On top, we'll put, for instance, 4 inches of foam on the roof, and then we'll coat it with the elastomeric roof coating. So not only they got an insulation job, but they also got a new roof system as well.
So this would be an example of that in process.
Yeah.
But this doesn't look like it's spray foam.
That's spray foam, yeah.
So how come it's got squares like this if it's spray foam?
The light colored material over what the guys are standing on, except that's the foam.
Oh, I see.
With the squares on it, what that is it's called Densdeck, which is a fire-rated material, so you can have your fire rating, and it's screwed down with plates. That picture there, though, it happens to be a residential roof.
Oh, I'm confused. So this doesn't look like a residential building because it's flat.
It is. It's residential.
Huh. So do you have any pictures of where you've applied spray foam to a commercial project?
Yes. Seven Gables Real Estate Building.
Ah, right. Okay. So this is a commercial one.
Yes.
Right. So what are we looking at? What is this, the spray foam?
That is the spray foam with the white coating on it.
So the white coating reflects the sunlight, UV, which stabilizes the spray foam underneath.
Yes, it protects the foam from the ultraviolet rays, and it's a reflective coating which makes the building cooler inside.
So that's a different one to this because it's kind of got a wall around it. So this is the actual building, and that's
the commercial building. That's a carport, and all those posts that are sticking up, they'll have solar panels on them.
Okay.
So those are the stands for the solar panels.
Huh. So why would you apply spray foam to a carport? That's not intuitive.
With all those penetrations going in, they needed a new roof system, so they've hired me to do the building, so they just had me do the carport as well.
What's the process? Is there something that goes down before the spray foam?
Well, this is not new construction. This is an existing built-up roof system on there, which is the hot tar roofing, which they come out with, and they have the rolls of roofing. And those rolls of roofing, if you see those seams every 3 feet, that's the old roof underneath it.
Right, so you applied the spray foam directly to the black tar?
Right over the existing roof system.
First of all, it's a layer of spray foam, and that's how thick?
Yep, that's 1 inch thick.
Oh, just 1 inch?
Minimum of 1 inch, and 1 inch is very typical. Now, when you do residential roofs, 1 inch is common. When you do commercial roofs, 1.5 inches is very common.
So if somebody was to ask about having spray foam applied to a commercial building like this, what would you recommend as against what's common?
I would recommend 1.5 inches. It all depends on the condition of the roof system that's on there. You have to inspect that thoroughly. A lot of times that there's rotten plywood. In different roof systems, you have to take different things into consideration. What is very typical is what we had here. It's a cap sheet roof on top. And what you do first, Tim, is you first clean everything, make sure that the existing roof is clean as possible, and then after it's clean, you spray apply the foam, and then after that you get 2 layers of the white elastomeric coating.
Why 1.5 inches? Yeah, I mean, what you've done is you've talked about 3 or 4 inches for commercial or 2 inches for residential. Why is it only 1.5 inches on the roof?
On commercial buildings, they typically want a more heavier duty system. Even when it comes to roofing or insulation, they typically go a step further and get a little better system in there because you have a lot of people coming in and out of there, so they want something that's going to last a little longer and do a little bit more for them.
Right, but I'm confused because 1.5 inches is less than 3 inches or less than 4 inches or less than even 2 inches when you do insulation in a home. So it sounds like 1.5 inches is not as good.
If you're talking just a roof system, you have to have a minimum of 1 inch. And that gives you a little bit of R value. But if you're looking for an insulation system and a roof system, now you're talking something different. You have to have your R value on top of your roof. So then you have to add 3 inches or 4 inches if you want to get your R value of the insulation. If you just want a roof system and that's it, and it's insulated from underneath, you have to have a minimum of 1 inch.
Right, okay, now I understand. So when you say a roof system, it's just an alternative surface that is going to repel water and keep the roof intact.
Exactly.
So what you're doing is you're saying 1 inch to 1.5 inches is okay if the requirement is just to keep the roof sound, but if you want the R value to be improved, then you need to go to 3 or 4 inches.
Correct.
Got it.
We did a job off of Glendale Boulevard in LA, and it came out really nice. It got 5 inches. It's a good example. It's a sound studio, so they needed extra insulation, but they wanted to show the wood ceiling, so they insulated it from the roof. So they needed a roof system, and plus they needed insulation. That is what you call a summer bell roof system. That's the shape. It looks like a dome. It's called a summer bell. What it does is all the water rushes towards the parapet walls, and then it drains towards the corner there. It's a sound studio in Los Angeles, and they wanted to see the stained wood underneath, so they had me do the insulation. They wanted to insulate it from the roof, on top of the roof, and they needed a roof system at the same time. So we put 4 3/4 inches, which is an R30. Now they meet code, and they don't see any insulation underneath. They can see all the natural wood.
All right, let me just make sure I understand. So what you're saying is on the inside of the sound studio, they can see all the wood that is the underneath of the roof, so that they've got something that looks visually really cool, so they don't have to apply insulation to the underneath and spoil the look of the roof. So therefore, what they've done is they've applied the insulation to the outside of the roof, and in order to get the R value and meet code for just the roof system itself in terms of its integrity and waterproofness, so to get all of that, you've gone to 4 3/4 inches to get R30.
Correct.
So again, on this one, the process is the original roof was there and you just went straight, you cleaned it up and you just went straight over it with spray foam, or did you do something else to it first?
Well, that's it. We clean it up real good, and we spray it right on top of the original roof system, and then 1 layer of coating, let that dry for 36 hours, and then we put a second. And we do a total of 3 gallons per 100 square feet of coating.
So I imagine compared to a blacktop style roof, going to white, reflective white like that on top of all the insulation must make a huge difference to the insulation value of the roof.
Huge, huge. On top of the R value and the air sealing of the foam, the reflective value that you get off this white roof system is tremendous.
So this is open cell or closed cell?
This is closed cell foam. The roofing foam is a little bit a different blend.
Oh, is it?
It's a different blend. Yeah, it's the closed cell foam for insulation is a 2-pound density. This density on this is 2.8.
So that makes it strong enough to walk on?
Yes.
So is regular closed cell strong enough to walk on?
Yes.
Huh.
Tough stuff.
That's an example of a commercial project where spray foam is applied to the surface of outside surface of the roof. So roughly, how big is that roof? What kind of scale are we talking about?
10,000 square feet.
Roughly, how long does a job like that take?
Oh, I think it took us a week to do from start to finish. If you look at it, Tim, on top of the parapet wall, see that metal coping that's attached to the top of the wall? Right there, that gray looks like a cap on top of that wall.
Uh-huh.
It goes all the way across.
Uh-huh.
This is another thing that and this is an example because we're a construction company with a general contractor's license. We'll take on other trades. Typically, that is a sheet metal contractor's job to come behind us and put this coping on. We went ahead and had that fabricated, and we installed it for them.
So 10,000 square feet, about a week to do. So that's a roofing system. Can we look at some of the other commercial jobs where you're putting the spray foam to the inner walls?
Let's go to Target. This is the Target Distribution Center for Southern California. Huge building in Colton, out in the Inland Empire there. And this is a loading dock, metal siding on this, and they said the sun would hit that thing and that whole loading dock inside there would just cook. The loading dock itself is outside of the conditioned space. They needed somehow to make that thing cooler in the summertime, so we sprayed 2 inches. All they wanted me to do is to knock down some of that heat that's penetrating that metal siding. So we went along and did the entire side of the whole loading dock.
And that's regular closed cell foam?
That's regular closed cell 2-pound foam. He's applying it off a scissor lift. You know, that loading dock, it's a huge building, 45 feet tall.
So in this case, then, we've got 2 inches of spray foam applied to lower the cost of a wall that's in direct sunlight, to lower the heat transfer on a metal wall that's in direct sunlight. Kind of trade-off between keeping the cost down and doing 2 inches and getting good insulation value return.
Right.
So what would be the R value of that then?
Well, the R value is a 13, but you got to remember, Tim, with spray foam, it's not about R value. It's about air sealing, because what R value is you have different R, like a R13, you have a R19, you have a R30, and so on. And the more R value you have, what that means is the heat transfers from the outside of the building, it transfers into the insulation, and the longer it takes to get that insulation to where it's 100% full of the heat load, then that heat transfers inside of the building. So the longer it takes for the insulation to get 100% heat load is a higher rating. Like if it takes 2 hours opposed to 4, the 4 is a higher R value because it takes longer for the heat to penetrate the insulation.
Uh-huh.
When you're talking spray foam, if you have a minimum of 2 inches, you have your air seal. So R value isn't a penetrate. It doesn't load up and enter the building. That's why R value isn't important in spray foam. It stops the heat from coming in.
So let me see if I've understood that correctly. Another way of saying that might be, although the R value is important and helps with insulation, one of the secondary benefits of spray foam that is possibly more important than the R value is the fact that it seals the building so you don't get air coming through and being transferred directly into the inside the building.
Exactly.
Which regular forms of insulation don't do.
Correct.
Huh.
Yeah, it stops the heat from coming in. So the reason why we have our different R values is because the city inspectors and the city codes aren't up to speed with spray foam. If you've ever tried to change a code, especially in California, it's next to impossible. So they have these city codes that are in place. For instance, on a wall, let's say the inspectors have to see an R19. That's 3 inches of foam, even though 2 inches would be more than enough. 2 inches would probably perform more like an R38 or an R50. It just doesn't enter the building. But there's no way you're going to be able to change the code